Dr. Saray Stancic is the founder of Stancic Health and Wellness in Ridgewood, New Jersey, an innovative medical practice whose mission is to educate and empower patients to achieve optimal health via lifestyle modifications. Her focus is shedding light on the building body of scientific data supporting the importance of optimal nutrition in disease prevention. The concept for this practice came in response to her experiences as a physician for nearly 20 years and as a patient with multiple sclerosis. We have Dr. Saray Stancic, lifestyle medicine physician, on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. You have a very interesting story that I'd like to share with the public. You told me when we first met that at one point in your life you went from being a doctor to being a patient. Can you elaborate, please?
Sure. So that came in 1995. I was a third-year medical resident, and I was on call at Beth Israel Medical Center. It was a really busy night. I was running from the emergency room to the ICU, and it wasn't until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning where I found a window in which I could take a brief nap. So when I was awakened from that nap, I found that I could not feel my lower extremities. I was brought to the emergency room. An MRI was done, which showed lesions in my brain and spinal cord and confirmed a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. So literally, my life changed overnight.
And what did your neurologist tell you while this was going on?
So at the time, I was 28 years old, and they were very frank with me. They wanted me to remain optimistic, but realistic. They painted a picture that suggested that there's a good possibility in 10 to 20 years that I would be wheelchair bound, and I needed to start disease-modifying medications immediately to slow the progression of this chronic disabling disorder. So at the time, I was terrified, and of course I followed the recommendations that were given to me, and I started the drug at the time. There was only one drug approved by the FDA for the treatment of multiple sclerosis. It's a drug called beta-seron, and it's an injectable drug that I would have to administer every evening, and it has a lot of side effects: flu-like illness, muscle aches, pains, anorexia, insomnia, and it was very difficult. Every evening at 10 o'clock I would inject. 2 o'clock in the morning I would wake up with shaking chills, myalgias, muscle aches and pains. I felt like I had the flu every night. It was very, very difficult. And being on this medication led to additional medications to treat the side effects of those. Right. So then I was put on a medication to help me sleep, one to help me wake up. I became depressed, so they put me on a medication for that. And by the time I was in my early 30s, I was dependent on nearly a dozen drugs to get through a typical day. Wow. And despite all of these medications, my quality of life severely suffered.
Can you tell me a little bit about your health and wellness clinic?
Right. So I started out my career as an internist and an infectious diseases specialist. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I was in medical school, it was the height of the HIV epidemic, and I became very interested in that. And so that's why I pursued a career in infectious diseases. So, but why am I practicing lifestyle medicine today? And it's really a product of my two experiences, my personal story and then my professional experience of seeing so much pain and suffering throughout those 20 years of practice that I knew were preventable, that I knew just by educating and correcting course for these patients, they didn't have to end up status post-stroke in the ICU or in a nursing home setting. So about 3 years ago, I felt so passionate about this topic that I left behind my infectious diseases practice, and today I practice lifestyle medicine. So what I do is I help patients understand, educate, and empower them on the importance of the construct of the plate, physical activity, wherever they are at their baseline, building some type of physical activity that is regular and consistent, and then building upon that. We talk about stress management, which is very important in maintenance of health. We meditate in my office. Sleep hygiene is very, very important. I go food shopping with patients. I cook with them in their kitchens. We walk together. I make house calls, whatever I need to do in order to support that patient to change their behaviors.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your personal experience with us.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you
for coming. We'll be right back.